What up, YouTube? Back at it again. All right, so it looks like we've opened up sports. So welcome back to Zack Overreacts, where either you guys send me or I choose videos. This was sent to check out. So I told you that I like basketball. So of course I get sent some random video debate on the GOAT. Literally the most debated ever long kind of question that everybody dives into. This is JXMY High Roller, Jimmy High Roller. We're gonna subscribe and throw a like on here. I don't just want to run all over somebody's content without giving proper, credit where credit's due. Make sure that you run over to we'll call him Jimmy's page and go like, go subscribe, please. We got to give love to creators who put this stuff together. I don't have the time at the moment to put together stat by stat and highlight by highlight, although I would love to. But I have a lot of stuff going on at the moment. But for now, I'm just going to watch this because I was asked to. And if I have opinions, I will give them. Trust me. Cool. So, yeah, let's, anyways, other than that, love to have you here. Please, thanks for joining. Like, comment down below. Make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate it very much. If you came from my other channel, also link down below, which is all music reactions. Over here, we do reactions to legit everything. And you'll see me, tech, sports, media, comedy, pranks, whatever. You'll see me running around with the GoPro or cameras out and about, doing funny stuff. It's going to be fantastic. Thanks for joining. Let's dive into this debate and see what Jimmy has on this.
To get the fresh 14 to the Lakers. LeBron! Look out below! Oh my Lord!
It's never gonna end, is it? LeBron's reign over the NBA. I've just come to the conclusion that LeBron has hacked into the Matrix.
Now, mind you, okay,
and has
this is 2 years old.
Transcended aging. LeBron is in his 19th.
Honest to God, he's not wrong, because we're 2 years past this and he hasn't slowed down. He's still a top 8 player in the world, in the league, at 40.
NBA season, and is somehow still one of the best players on the planet. This isn't supposed to happen. 99% of NBA players peak in their mid to late 20s and then slowly regress as they age, eventually becoming a liability to their team and inevitably sailing off into the sunset, washed up and content with their achievements.
So that's my favorite player ever right there. I got jerseys to prove it, man. I love me some Vince Carter. Go Google if you haven't. His dunk in the Olympics over the 19-foot, dude. Just teabag. It's he's the best dunker in history, and I'll stand by that. But yeah, man. So LeBron gets more hate than any other athlete. Undeserved hate than any other athlete I've ever seen, and I'll stand on that hill too. Am I a LeBron guy? I'm sure. I'm a fan of basketball. He takes care of his body. He puts up better numbers than anybody, and he's been doing it longer and has sustained longer. Do I want him in like a cutthroat moment where I need something done quick, or do I depend on him to shoot a three or do certain things in certain places? Maybe there's better choices for that. There's better people for shooting, for example, or whatnot. But like, dude, it's I can talk for days. My dad sent me a clip of the I think it was the Jason Tatum thing the other night of the elbow, the LeBron's flopping, and they call him LaFlop and LeBrick, and there's all these nicknames, and there's so many haters. First of all, everybody flops. LeBron's got more eyes on him, and I sound like an apologist, like I'm defending him to some extent. Some of the things that he does is, it's a bit over the top. It's ridiculous. I think like NBA as a whole has turned into a little bit of what men's soccer did, in that like we've kind of made the sport a little softer. You watch 80s, you watch 80s ball. It's very different, but they're playing the refs. If they get away with it, why not? If you're gonna allow me to flop, and they're doing less of that now, but it's never mind.
Achievements, but not LeBron. The man is fighting his age like he's got a grudge on time itself. And the more he piles up on these mind-bending feats, the more we must ask ourselves the question. And I really hate to do this, but is LeBron the greatest basketball player of all time? And if he isn't, what would he need to do to truly, once and for all, be the GOAT?
Now, with all that said, I have an entire room full of Jordans. I am a huge Michael Jordan guy. So I'm just a basketball guy. So it's my favorite sport. I watch more and know more about basketball than probably any other sport that I watch. It's a little less than I used to, but I literally in college, I used to play fantasy in different leagues, and I would run every single game simultaneously. And at times, you get league pass. There's 8 games running at a time, 9 games. I'm watching all of them. I could rattle you the stats of every player playing. I could give you bench players. Literally everything. It was wild. My life has, taken a turn into adulthood and responsibility since then. So, but we should get going. We're only a minute. I'm sorry. Go support this guy.
About 5 years ago, I uploaded my first basketball-related video onto this channel. The title of that video is LeBron the GOAT. You can still watch this video today, but since it's an absolute dog water of a production, I highly recommend you steer clear of it. To summarize the video, I gave 10 reasons why LeBron would retire as the GOAT. Fast forward 5 years and thousands of hours of watching games, collecting data, and gathering context in this sport that we love. I've since changed my ways and realized that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time.
It's subjective. It's tough to make this objective because it depends on what you value. It depends on what is valued, and he'll probably get into this. But to me, you will never surpass Michael as the GOAT. Period. It's not possible. It doesn't even matter how good you are. It's just not possible. Different times, different eras. You have people that see things at different times. And the brand that Michael has built. Also, the things that he did as far as like misguidings weren't as highlighted because it wasn't in the social age. As LeBron, everything is under a magnifying glass. And by the way, he's not brought up on charges for anything. He's kind of a model citizen. He's kind of a good dude. But exemplary, especially compared to from what you might hear about Michael back in the day. But as far as basketball goes, you won't surpass this man as the GOAT. You can pack up as many stats as you want. I have my own opinions, but I'm just saying as far as people see it today, that may change.
But my original assessment from 5 years ago hasn't completely changed, because I never said LeBron was the GOAT at the time. I just gave 10 reasons why LeBron would retire as the GOAT. But ever since I dropped that video, I've pretty much avoided the GOAT conversation.
Dude, the best thing to do is to avoid that conversation, and I'm afraid of my comments too. For real, I'm trying to. I am in the middle. I really am in the middle. So it's hard to. Do I want stats piled up? Do I want a choo-choo train that runs through everybody that's gonna get me, 28, 8 and 8 a game? I got my guy. Do I want a cutthroat mother effer that that is just gonna just eat bodies out there and take souls? I might look elsewhere.
Altogether. I've put a spin on the idea of the greatest players in certain aspects of the game. I've talked about the greatest scorers. I've ranked players using purely numbers, but I've never really broken down who the greatest player is,
they don't even play
in
the
my
same
opinion,
position.
because I just feel like the topic is a bit redundant. And
True.
ESPN already gives you a daily update on the GOAT debate anyways, so
Daily.
no need for me to do it. But I think it's time we actually discuss this, because what LeBron is doing at this point in his career is just absurd. At the moment, there are pretty much 3 different camps on the whole GOAT debate. People who think Michael Jordan is the GOAT, people who think LeBron is the GOAT, and people who are wrong.
Who are wrong? He wrote other old heads that'll have a Wilt or a Kareem or or you might have some European fandom out there that throw somebody else in there.
I'm just joking, of course. But not really.
No,
I'd
you're
say
not
about 75% of people fall into the MJ's the GOAT category, about 20% of people fall into the LeBron's the GOAT category, and about 5% fall into the other category. Usually these other fans believe the GOAT is Wilt or Kobe or Kareem. There's not many of them, but boy, will they die on that hill. See, the thing here is that a lot of the fans in MJ's corner believe that he is and will forever be the GOAT. But realistically, is there anything LeBron can do to surpass him? I mean, there's gotta be some sort of objective metric we can use to distinguish the greatest player of all time.
That's what I was just saying. And regardless if you surpass that metric, no, there's nothing he can do. He's already done that, like, over and over. First of all, there's every MJ defender will bring up championships, and that's entirely fair, because what is the goal in any sport? To win. So you want winning regardless of stats, right? And then you'll have the LeBron side that says, all right, well, look at MJ's team and look who he had around him. How many of those guys are in the Hall of Fame right now? And then look at LeBron hanging out in Cleveland, going to championships with, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, right? So there's and who you take to the finals and how you get there. It's there's so much ambiguity. There's no way to construct a fair argument either way. Unless and then the different era thing, they couldn't even really play each other, so it's like it would have been cool to see though.
No opinions, no bias, just the facts. If LeBron somehow won 4 more championships and retired with 8 rings, he'd undoubtedly be the GOAT, right? So there are paths for him to become the greatest ever. But where does that threshold lie, and what would LeBron have to achieve to get there?
Him with Luka right now, when he gets healthy again, I'd be afraid of that team come playoff time. I'm just saying. They might lose a couple spots in the playoffs. I'm not sure it's really going to matter, but just saying.
First, let's just take a look at the basic numbers. Between Michael and LeBron has more career points, rebounds, assists, blocks, more triple doubles, higher field goal percentage, and a higher three-point percentage. And Michael has more steals and a higher free throw percentage. But this whole argument, the career totals argument, is only useful in demonstrating LeBron's longevity and sustained excellence.
So to pause, this is real time, right? So games played, LeBron's going to end up with more games played than damn near anybody, right? Regardless of what they do. Points per game, Michael's more of a scorer. LeBron's always been a better passer, and it's very obvious. Rebounder, LeBron's just built different. He's taller, stronger. He's going to rebound. Steals, yeah, Michael. So it's I'm surprised that blocks is that close, honestly. LeBron's career field goal percentage is over 50%. I don't know that I knew that. I don't even look at stats usually, but I mean, he gets a lot by the bucket, but like y'all call him LeBrick. All right. If you have stats like a center, his threes have been better lately. Free throw, middle of the pack. Hall of Fame, well, he'll get that check mark. Championships 4 to 6, obviously. First team All NBA, All NBA. Yeah, so it's dude, it's a lot of back and forth. But if you go by, and this is average. These are averages here. If you go by total stats, it's not even close. Just because, well, longevity. But I think that, your best ability is your availability and how long you can play for. You saw what happened, and by the way, LeBron, he could have had a damn scholarship for football. He could have played tight end and he made the league and been really good at that too. He's just built different. Jordan's got a different type of DNA in him. It's a mentality. Jordan's a killer. And you kind of want that, maybe above stats, because that's what gets the championships. That's what gets the job done. Do you want I don't know, in the business world, do you want a sales guy who hits just above quota monthly, or do you want one dude that slays the biggest deal ever, you know, and you know you're gonna get that from him, and he's tirelessly sweating that out. I don't know, maybe a stupid comparison, but like it's so hard to compare.
These numbers don't prove that LeBron's a better scorer, or rebounder, or defender, or shooter than Jordan. They just prove that LeBron's been good at these things for a very, very long time. These numbers also show just how versatile LeBron is, possibly his most valuable asset. So instead of looking at career...
And then longevity, like what in age of time in the league, you have like going to baseball, certain things, going to college versus not.
Totals, let's look at career averages. Michael averages more points and more steals, and LeBron averages more assists and more rebounds. And as much as it pains me to say this, this is usually where the argument for the GOAT ends for most people. Throw in a required comment about their finals records, and you pretty much have a condensed version of most GOAT debates. But there is so much more to unpack here. So let's unpack it.
Dude, MJ was so good. I love watching his highlights.
So y'all know how much I like advanced stats. They don't tell the full story, but if you know which ones to look for, you can discover some nuances in a player's game that you won't get by just watching them play. Player efficiency rating, win shares per 48, offensive box plus minus, defensive box plus minus,
like this.
value over replacement, and true shooting percentage. These 6 advanced stats give us efficiency, production, value, impact, and pretty much everything in between. And in these 6 advanced statistics, Michael Jordan exceeds LeBron in 5 of them. He's more efficient overall. He contributes to more wins. He contributes to more points. He's better on defense, and he is generally more valuable on the court than LeBron is. The only advanced stat where LeBron tops Jordan is true shooting percentage. Now, in terms of who's a better basketball player, nearly every metric points to Michael Jordan. But really take a look at these numbers, and it's actually uncanny just how close LeBron is to MJ across the board. Just a fraction behind Jordan in pretty much everything. But these numbers aren't even addressing who's greater, because that conversation would involve accolades and accomplishments and impact on the game.
Yeah, do those numbers factor in who's around you? Because that's a big deal.
Away the rings, the influence, the intangibles, the opinions, and it's virtually objectively true that Michael was a better basketball player than LeBron. But the GOAT debate isn't necessarily about who is the better player. It's about who is the greatest player. We've got some more unpacking to do. Now, we cannot have a thorough GOAT debate without discussing the accomplishments of each player. Numbers are cool and they have their purpose, but numbers alone aren't indicative of greatness. They're just a vehicle to greatness. This is why, despite James Harden spending half a decade piling up some of the greatest scoring numbers in NBA history,
speaking of who gets a lot of hate, my man, all right, I watched him in college. I went to ASU, so I have a Harden jersey too, by the way. If he was in such like his talent is wild, and I'm not going to throw him in any debate for anything, because he's kind of proven that like he doesn't really like playoffs, and he's kind of a weird dude, I think. And his numbers have been crazy good over the past few weeks here. And I had no idea until recently that he was like second to Steph in made threes, like all time. That's wild. Because he's not like a specialty guy, right? You got the Ray Allens and whatnot that are specialty guys. He plays point. Anyways.
Most people don't consider him greater than some players with far lesser offensive numbers. The numbers complement the accolades, not the other way around. This is also why I consider Wilt Chamberlain to have been a better basketball player than Bill Russell, but Bill Russell was greater than Wilt. Wilt achieved his greatness through his numbers, whereas Russell achieved his greatness by contributing to an unrelenting style of winning basketball. So let's take a look at the accomplishments of both Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Now, there are plenty of other awards a player can earn in the NBA, but these are the ones that really stand out on a player's resume. Championships, Finals MVPs, regular season MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, All NBA selections, and All Defensive Team selections. And amongst these 6 categories, Jordan beats LeBron in 5 of them. And Michael accomplished all of this in just 15 seasons to LeBron's full 18 seasons. The only category where LeBron outperformed Michael is in all NBA selections. And most will argue that, again, this is an accomplishment of longevity more than anything else.
Also
which, at this point, seems to be the overall theme in the GOAT debate. Up to this point in his career, the majority of fans will agree.
Yeah, it could be longevity versus just outright dominant greatness. But I think there's something to be said with that. That has to give you some legs in, because we want to keep you around, right? There's a lot of players who are great for a short amount of time but fizzle out. I'm not saying that Michael was one of those, obviously not, but that's where it gets subjective. What do you value, right? What do you want to? If it's a sport, it's usually what you want to watch. You want to watch excitement. You want to watch winning. You want to watch, the crazy moves in the air. Jordan, you want to watch Jordan. Honestly, if sport is entertainment, I would much rather watch Michael Jordan.
That LeBron has been a step below Jordan in terms of greatness. So now the race to become the GOAT has become a marathon, because eventually the sheer volume of LeBron's career numbers and achievements may become so overwhelming that we'll have no choice but to concede that he is in fact the greatest player of all time. Which brings us to a real dilemma in this age-old debate.
It'd be cool to have seen like LeBron in some more dunk contests, or really any, like right out of like just back in the day, like in his prime. That might have been fun if those were a little bit more respected.
The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long. A great quote by the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu regarding the idea of
that's a very apt. That sums up exactly what you're talking about. No, well done.
A great quote by the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu regarding the idea of excellence and the sustainability of it. Almost as if you can have longevity or be exceptional, but you can't have both. Now, in the world of basketball and sports in general, usually being exceptional translates to longevity and vice versa. Michael Jordan was excellent for 13 seasons in the NBA. His flame was violently bright and had burned for quite some time. But what if there was a flame that burned about 95% as bright and lasted much, much longer? At a certain point, the radiance of even the brightest flame is outclassed by the flame that just won't quit. Of course, LeBron isn't a flame. He's a 6'9", 250-pound freak of nature in basketball shoes, but his light shines about 95% as bright as Michael Jordan's did, and it's lasting a whole lot longer.
Do you want to go to Vegas and have the craziest party ever at level 100? Everything is fun for all of the time. It's nothing but win for 2 nights? Or do you want to stay in Vegas and have a pretty good time for 4? But you're going to have a great time the entire time.
When does the longevity of LeBron's brilliance simply outmatch the slightly greater but much shorter brilliance of Michael? Because as we've discussed, Mike trumps LeBron in pretty much every single metric other than longevity and overall production. So the real question here is, how much longer will LeBron have to be excellent before the majority agrees that he is greater than Michael was? The man is in his 19th NBA season, and he's leading the NBA in scoring.
And this is more like dealing with MJ's brand. It's living on. You would figure like kids nowadays like didn't even watch MJ play. Didn't even watch and they wouldn't say like, oh, now, and they have watched LeBron play, but they'll still, a lot of them, like, they're still wearing Jordans. So they're like, it's going to live on. It will always live on. And good. Because that's why, it's kind of why he's the GOAT. And that's not really going to change.
10th NBA season, and he's leading the NBA in scoring. He's still a top 5 player in the league, and his bag is getting deeper and deeper with every season. Here's a chart of LeBron's total points, assists, and rebound averages throughout each season of his career. Each point on the graph represents the total average of points, assists, and rebounds for every season of his career.
Wild.
So, for example, this season LeBron is putting up 8, 6, and 30 a game, so his total for the season is 44. Now, in the NBA, anything
Still right around there. It's nuts.
above a total of 40 is exceptional. LeBron's total production has exceeded 40 in 17 different seasons. Now here's Michael's total average points, assists, and rebounds for every season of his career. This is by far the greatest argument in favor of LeBron in the GOAT debate. The man has simply sustained excellence for longer than Mike did. And although the numbers are just a vehicle to greatness, there has got to be a point where the numbers are just too glaring to ignore. LeBron's numbers are getting to that point. But some fans will argue that there were other players that were still really good this late in their career. You mean like Kareem, or Kobe, or Karl Malone? They weren't even close. LeBron's already the only player to be a part of the 30K, 10K, 10K club. Aside from a freak injury, he'll undoubtedly break Kareem's scoring record.
He did. Well past it. Yeah, that's been broken.
Probably play the most seasons in an NBA career. He already has the record for most All-NBA selections, and he's still adding to what is probably the longest career highlight reel with moments like this. If LeBron is still doing this in a couple years, while still
He is. I'm here. A couple years later.
putting up All-NBA numbers, I really think it's going to be difficult to say that he's not the greatest player ever.
It's not difficult. It is difficult. It's again, you got to go back to subjectivity. It's opinion at that point. It comes down to it's so silly at that point. It's just like, who do you like better? Who do you like watching more? Because at one point I can make an argument for either one of these guys, a very good one, and I could make you believe it with numbers and stats, just like he pulled up, and it would sound convincing. But like at the end of the day, it's just you choose. You kind of just choose who you enjoy more, right? Maybe who you grew up with. They're different eras, so then there's that.
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. While LeBron's legacy is growing as he plays more seasons, Michael's legacy would have been slightly diminished if he played more seasons. Of course, this isn't a matter of fact, but all the evidence points towards this assumption. Michael Jordan retiring after playing just 13 NBA seasons in 1998 was the best thing he could have ever done for his legacy. The Bulls were not going to win another championship, and the backbone of the dynasty he had built had all but vanished by the beginning of the 1999 season. If he had played through that 3-year retirement gap from 1999 to 2001, he would have either stayed with the Bulls and put up huge numbers on a losing team, or signed with a different team and chased rings. Both options being far less illustrious than him going out on top with the team that drafted him. Michael's career was the perfect storm. He was drafted by a franchise that was ready and willing to build around him. He was on a roster that suited his skill sets extremely well, and he and the Bulls peaked right as the dominant teams from the 80s and early 90s like the Lakers, Celtics, and Pistons began to fade away. You could not have written a better career if you tried. On the other hand, despite his success, LeBron really got the short end of the deal many times throughout his career. He spent his first 7 seasons in the NBA playing for a team that could not have cared less about building a coherent team around him. He spent 4 straight finals going toe-to-toe with the most dominant dynasty in modern NBA history.
Seriously, what do you got? Zydrunas Ilgauskas and J.R. Smith and Mo Williams and dude, the teams he was on were really bad. Who is he? I mean, set aside Miami, he got a break there.
Outside of Jordan's Bulls. While Michael was surrounded by players who were all willing to buy into their system, LeBron has spent many years carrying the load of bad rosters and seemingly incompetent.
JR, I forgot about that. Oh, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing, my guy?
Teammates, part of which is his own fault for trying to play GM and putting together piss-poor rosters. And I bring up these small nuances because the GOAT debate is very nuanced. As much as people want to act like the whole 6-0 in the finals is the end-all be-all to the discussion,
A lot of people do that.
it's just not. If rings were all that mattered, then Bill Russell would be the GOAT. Oh, but he played a long time ago. That doesn't count.
How about Robert Horry?
Okay, well then Robert Horry is the GOAT because he has 7 rings to Jordan's 6. Well yeah, but Horry wasn't the best player on any of those championships. Okay, so is the argument about rings, or is it about being the best player on the court, or a mixture of both? Is a player's performance, despite how masterful it was, all in vain if his team loses? The line becomes less and less clear the deeper you dig. No
I need to see that again. That was so dirty. I love this clip.
loses, the line becomes less
Baseline.
and less
Er,
clear
gotcha.
the deeper you dig. No single metric can be used to determine this debate. And the unpacking of every small minute detail is a necessary burden. But unfortunately, it's a burden that most fans won't bother to take on. At the moment, I personally believe Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. I also think he's the best basketball player of all time. But, unlike some fans, I don't think the door has closed on LeBron. I think that if LeBron can continue to dominate the league for a few more seasons and continue to shatter our previous notions of what we thought was possible in a single NBA career, I think that he has a chance to retire as the greatest player of all time. But of course, only time will tell. And fortunately for LeBron, time seems to perpetually be on his side.
He a little hurt right now, but maybe all right. My thoughts. I still kind of agree with him right now. It's you can't look at this stuff at some point with just numbers versus numbers because everybody's gonna have different numbers. It has to just come down to like your eyeball test and what you enjoy more. What do you enjoy watching more? And yeah, as much as you want to defer from it, it will come down to kind of a longevity thing. I'm pretty sure LeBron's not retiring after the season. So he's not done. And he's like my age. That's wild. I was like midweek. I threw lunges into leg day. On Wednesday. It's Friday, and I'm like having trouble with the stairs. So I do respect the way my man has taken care of his body for sure. And unlucky for me, I wasn't. I was alive, but like I didn't watch a ton of like Jordan's Bulls. I wasn't old enough to be into that at the time. That caught the tail end of Jordan's career. I didn't get to see him in college. I didn't get to see his first years in the NBA really. But I've seen all the highlights, of course, over and over and over again. I think that it depends on what you want when you want it. It's tough to argue, and I kind of feel the exact same way that this dude does, and I am a LeBron fan. As far as greatest player ever, I don't know that anybody's passing Michael ever, regardless of what you do. Seriously, it's not just what he did on the court. It's what he embodies in the sport as an icon, as a legend, and the brand he's built. You can't mess with that. There's regardless of what you do, it doesn't even matter at this point. He has a monopoly on the GOAT debate until he's forgotten about, which isn't going to happen because we have archives. So stats we've seen stats don't matter. We see that rings don't matter really. It's a persona. It's something that you can't even describe. There's something to him that you just that's MJ, right? Thanks for joining. Would love your thoughts down below. I'm not going to debate anybody. Go support my guy's channel, please. I will link it down below. Like if you like, please comment down below. Make sure you're subscribed. Just started this channel. If you came from my other channel, appreciate that very much. But love to have you here. We're going to be doing a bunch of random stuff, not just sports. If you noticed on my channel, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk to you on the next. Have a good weekend.